Tonight, it's the idea of the tiniest insult lighting the fuse on the biggest kind of war that's stuck in my head. Not a superweapon, not a secret plot. Just one arrogant general, a glob of spit, and a room full of species watching to see what humans do next. It's a strange thought, isn't it? That the line between welcome to the galaxy and extinction event could be crossed with something that petty, the second where you could laugh it off, or you could let something cold wake up inside you because you've had days like that just on a smaller scale. Someone pushes too far, and suddenly you're deciding what kind of person you are when you're done being patient. Now stretch that feeling across an entire species. Because in this story, you're sitting in a quiet room on a small blue world, while light years away, one insult turns humanity from background species into galactic threat, and the scary part isn't that humans hit back. It's how carefully they choose to hit back, and what they quietly built for the day. Someone tried them. So settle in with that thought for a bit, because we're going to slip from your room to a station near the galactic core, where a tired captain straightens his uniform under a shy little Earth flag, seconds before a Vicari general leans over a rail, spits on him, and accidentally declares war on the most lethal, peaceful species alive. You are not alone in this story. You are sitting in a quiet room on a small blue world late at night. The lights are low. Outside, the sky holds stars that our kind has only just learned to cross. Somewhere out there in those stars, a small human flag hangs in the air of a giant station near the heart of the galaxy. In a few minutes of story time, a single insult will turn that flag into a target. In a few hours of wartime, our species will decide what kind of power it wants to be. Emotions to be. This is not a story about heroes who love to fight. It is a story about a species that fights only when it must, and then works twice as hard to heal what was broken. It is about you and people like you choosing who humans are when the galaxy finally looks our way. Close your eyes if you like. Breathe slow. Let the day fall off your shoulders. Now imagine the year is 2285, and humanity is walking into the room where the galaxy meets. This is where it all begins. The station hangs near a quiet blue star, deep toward the center of the galaxy. It is larger than any human city. Rings of metal shine with soft light. Ships of every size slide in and out of its ports like slow, bright fish. This place is the Galactic Conclave. Here, old empires sign treaties. Young species ask for trade routes and protection. Arguments that once caused wars are now settled around long tables instead of battle lines. For the first time ever, Earth has been invited. On Dock Ring 12, the human flag is small compared to others, but it is there, blue and green and white, with a simple Earth design that looks almost shy between banners of gold, jagged symbols, and glowing sigils. Captain Jack Harrison stands in front of that flag, smoothing the front of his dark uniform. He looks like a man who has not slept much. There are faint gray lines at the corners of his eyes, and his jaw clenches now and then. but his back is straight. Beside him stands his second-in-command, Commander Lisa Daniels. She keeps checking the status display on her wrist. AMX gravity field security feeds from the human ship Meridian. Her hair is tied back tight so nothing blocks her view. "You're doing it again," Jack says softly. "Doing what?" Lisa asks, not looking up, trying to protect us from numbers on a screen. She snorts. "Somebody has to. You're busy trying to impress the galaxy." Jack smiles, but there is worry behind it. "We just need them to stop calling us pre-FTL fauna in their reports. Peaceful, serious, worth listening to. That's all." Lisa finally looks at him. They see a young species that almost destroyed its own planet. They see wars, climate collapse, all the bad history. They don't see what came after. "Then we'll show them," he says. "We solved the climate crash. We fixed the oceans. We turned old weapons labs into medicine labs. The United Earth Council is real. No more rival blocks aiming nukes at each other. We can be the species that learned." Lisa nods once. "Just remember, Captain, they might not want to hear it." The doors ahead of them slide open without a sound. Inside, the grand hall of the conclave feels like a calm sea in a storm of stars. The floor is a smooth circle. Around it rise tiered platforms, each with its own gravity, air, and light for the species that sits there. The roof is a clear dome, and beyond it the blue star glows steadily, wrapped in glimmering energy fields. At the center floats the speaker's dais, a flat disc shaped by gentle force fields. In its middle, the current speaker of the conclave, a many-limbed being called Talek, rests on a cushion of light. "Delegation of Earth," Talek says, voice translated into soft human speech by Jack's earpiece. The words move through the hall. Some species turn their eyes, lenses, or sensor stalks toward the humans. Others do not bother to look. Jack steps onto the thin bridge of gravity that leads to the days. Lisa walks half a step behind him, every sense alert. Cameras on the Meridian send the images back to Earth in real time through faster-than-light relays. Billions are watching. Billions are watching. Jack's heart beats hard, but his steps are steady. "Honored delegates," he begins, his voice clear. "On behalf of the United Earth Council and the people of Earth, I thank you for this invitation. Our world has known war and hunger. We have also known healing and repair. We come here not as conquerors, but as partners. We bring trade, art, science, and a promise. We will treat your worlds as carefully as we learned to treat our own." In a Vicari balcony to the right, a group of tall, armored figures stand behind a thick railing. Their armor is dark green, with sharp silver markings. At their center stands General Drax, a high officer of the Vicari Empire. The Vicari are an old power. Their empire stretches across thousands of systems. Their law is built on fear, rank, and strict honor codes. To them, younger species are like children, or sometimes like wild animals, something to manage, not to respect. As Jack speaks, Drax leans toward a fellow officer. This earth smells like a death world. Drax mutters in his own tongue. Too much oxygen. Too many predators. No constraints. And they let such a world crawl out into the lanes. The other Vicari lets out a low, crackling sound that means amusement. Jack finishes his short speech. Some delegations tap the rail in polite approval. A few send quick messages of welcome. Others mark the humans as low strategic interest. The Vicari do nothing. The speaker's platform shifts a little. We will now hear responses from established members. Talek says, those who wish to sponsor or advise the new entrant may signal. On the far side, a gentle water-dwelling species called the Solari sends a mild light pattern. Interest but cautious. A trade league from the Outer Arms sends a similar sign. Then, to Jack's quiet surprise, the Vicari balcony glows with a formal red symbol. The Vicari Empire may speak, Talek says. General Drax steps forward to the front of his platform. The translation comes into Jack's ear. Smooth and calm. Newcomers of Earth, Drax says, we note your presence. Your world has survived many self-inflicted disasters. You have not yet proven that your kind can act with discipline beyond your gravity well. In Vicari law, a species that cannot control itself is not yet a species at all, a thing to be contained. Lyssa's jaw tightens. Jack keeps his face still. We will watch you, Drax continues. We advise the Conclave to limit your access to lanes and military-grade fields until you have proven. Jack cuts in, voice low but firm. With respect, we did not ask for your approval. We asked for partnership. Use of FTL lanes is governed by shared Conclave law, not Vicari opinion. Across the hall, a few lights shift in interest. The translator softens Jack's tone, but the meaning is clear. On the Vicari platform, Drax's eyes narrow. To be answered in public by a younger species is an insult in his culture. He steps forward again, closer to the edge of his platform until he stands just above the human bridge. You stand under the protection of this conclave, Drax says, voice going cold. You speak as if your little blue world matters. Learn your place. He lifts his head slightly. For a second, the hall is silent. Then he does it. He leans over the edge and spits. The glob of dark saliva hangs in low gravity. Drifting toward Jack's, it hits the shoulder of Jack's uniform and spreads in a slow, ugly smear. Lisa steps forward by instinct, but Jack raises a hand to stop her. He looks up at Drax, his face now completely calm, almost blank. All around, the hall fills with sudden motion. Some delegates stiffen. Some turn away, as if they do not want to be seen watching. Lyssa's earpiece crackles with a private channel from the human legal team on the Meridian. Commander, the lawyer says, voice tight. Under Vicari law, a public spitting against a uniformed officer is a formal war challenge between that officer's state and the Vicari crown. It is automatic and binding. Lyssa's heart seems to stop for a moment. Can they do that here? She breathes too low for anyone but Jack to hear. Yes, the lawyer says, if we answer in kind, if Jack hits him, if we accept. In any way, it is war by their code. If we do nothing, they argue in conclave court that we are too weak to hold a seat. Either path hurts us. On the dais, Talik's color pattern shifts to a troubled mix. General Drax, the speaker, says carefully, "Be advised that enough," Drax says, and folds his arms. Jack looks down at the stain on his uniform. Then he looks up at the Vicari officer. His voice, when he speaks, is very soft. "The United Earth Council notes your action, General Drax," he says. "We will answer in our own time, in our own way." Lisa does not miss the key fact. He did not spit back. He did not strike. He did not accept the duel in Vicari form. Instead, he placed the response in human hands. Human law, human choice. To Vicari ears, though, his words are a promise, an answer, a signal that the challenge is not refused. Somewhere above Earth in silent orbit, an old warning satellite blinks and sends a different kind of message. On the Meridian, Admiral William Reeves watches the live feed, and with Drax spit, his face goes still. He does not swear. He does not shout. He just turns to his staff. "Send priority red to the United Earth Council," he says quietly. "Tell them Vicari have issued war challenge in the Conclave Hall. Recommend activating contingency protocols in Geneva, New Nairobi, Toronto, Mumbai, and 100 other centers of power. Secure rooms come alive as the message arrives. Secure rooms come alive as the message. Old rivalries fall quiet. Old flags stay folded in their cabinets. The United Earth Council meets in emergency session. There are brief arguments. Some leaders cannot believe that a spit can mean war. Others point to Vicari law records which show dozens of such incidents, ending in system-wide massacres. In a dark bunker under Iseland's basalt rock, a hidden server rack hums to life. A line of text appears on a black screen. Project Sleeping Dragon status. Standy B awaiting console authorization on the outskirts of Alpha Centauri, at a quiet research station that studies a small rocky world. Children from Earth and Mars float through a gym ring, playing with magnetic toys. Their teachers smile. The station has light gravity, clean air, and thick walls. It feels safe. No one there knows the word Vicari. Not yet. Hours after the Conclave incident, a Vicari strike group drops out of FTL in the system. Their orders are clear. Hit human assets fast. Shock them. Show them what a war challenge means when the other side has a 1,000-year empire behind it. They fire before the station's small defense grid even finishes waking up. On the Meridian's command deck, alarms scream as feeds from Alpha Centauri burst into ragged static, then cut out entirely. Lisa stares at the last frozen frame of the gym ring, where a red ball floats in midair and a child's hand is just reaching for it. "Casualty estimates?" Jack asks, his voice raw. 212 confirmed humans on station, the tactical officer says. 47 of them children. Moment Sejin, no life pods launched. Silence falls on the deck. In that silence, something very old and very human rises. It is not pure rage. It is not blind hate. It is a sharp, cold, focused thing, built from a long history of loss and rebuilding. Admiral Rivas' image appears on the main screen, patched in from his flagship in Earth orbit. "Captain Harrison, Commander Daniels," he says. "The United Earth Council has voted. The Vicari Empire has committed an unprovoked act of war. Effective now, all emergency defense plans move from standby to active. The words that come next have been hidden in sealed files for decades. Project Sleeping Dragon is authorized. We will not seek conquest, we will not strike civilian worlds. Our task is simple. Stop the attacks, make sure they can never do this again, and then make the peace so strong that no child in this galaxy has to watch their sky burn for a Vicari lesson. In honor. Understood." Jack looks at Lisa. Her eyes are bright, but no tears fall. "There will be time for that later." "Understood, Admiral," Jack says. Earth will answer. In the dark under Iceland, the black screen changes. Project Sleeping Dragon status. Active Protocol. Defensive awaken humanity, long seen as young and weak, has just been pushed. The galaxy does not yet know what that means. It will. The first thing the Vicari High Command does not understand about humans is how much quiet work they did before ever joining the stars. While the Vicari built dreadnoughts and conquest fleets, humans built something stranger. Plans for a war they hoped would never come. Project Sleeping Dragon began 50 years before the Conclave incident, back when Earth was still busy repairing oceans and growing forests back over old scars. It was born in half-secret talks between former rivals, nations that once aimed weapons at each other and now sat at the same table. They all agreed on two simple points. First, if a strong, hostile empire ever came, Earth would be outgunned in a straight fight. Second, humans did not want to become like those empires to survive, so they designed a defense that fit who they were. Admiral William Reeves stands in a dark command room under the Atlantic, long before he ever steps onto a starship. Hollow maps float in the air, the solar system with Earth a bright dot in the middle. Think of it like this. He tells a room full of planners, "We cannot build a single giant wall. We do not have the time or the resources, but we can turn our whole house into something that is very hard to break." He points at dots scattered through the asteroid belt, along Pluto's orbit, in the Kuiper belt beyond. Disguised platforms, he says. Mining stations that are not only mining stations, survey drones that are also sensor webs, old weapons labs that now print food and medicine, and can, in an emergency, print other things. The Sleeping Dragon plan is simple in shape, complex in detail. It spreads sensors and weapons across thousands of small sites instead of a few large ones. It ties them together with hidden relays and backup systems. It counts on something humans know well: how to work around broken parts. Years later, as Vicari's ships hit the Alpha Centauri station, the Dragon starts to open its eyes. On the far side of the moon, a gray rock face cracks neatly down the middle. Inside, lights flick on in a buried array of missile silos and railgun mounts that were hidden as historic Cold War displays in tourist maps. In the asteroid belt, A hollowed-out rock labeled as a generic ore processor slides open like a seed pod. Inside, a fusion core warms up. Turrets rise from its surface, dark and smooth. On Pluto's ice, what looks like a weather tower splits apart and lifts, revealing a skeletal dish that turns toward the outer system. It begins to talk in tight beams of light to other hidden towers. In low Earth orbit, the old rivalries finally show their last secret. Black projects once meant to give single nations an edge are handed over to United Earth Command on his flagship Sentinel. Now, in high Earth orbit, Admiral Reeves watches the network map grow bright. "Commander Olivia Wright," he says, turning to the woman at the tactical station. "Give me a summary." Olivia is sharp-faced, calm, and known for never raising her voice. She traces the glowing nodes with a hand. "Sir, we have full activation on inner system platforms," she says. "Outer system arrays are waking up in stages. At current rate, the distributed defense network will be at 70% in 12 hours, 90 in 30 hours. Vicari move faster than that," Reeves says. "Yes, sir," Olivia says. "Which is why we will not wait for them to come to us." She taps a new set of symbols. Small green blips appear near the edges of the map. Special operations teams are already boarding outbound civilian ships and repurposed freighters. They will not fight as fleets. They will fight as shadows. This is the second thing the Vicari do not understand about humans: how they fight when they know they are outmatched. The Vicari way of war is grand and heavy. They announce attacks with clear legal notices. They fight in full view, ship against ship, rank against rank. The human way of war, when forced, is more like a street fight, learned in cramped cities. It uses corners, timing, surprise. It is less about honor and more about not losing. Captain Frank Martinez sits in a cramped shuttle that used to haul ice from the rings of Saturn. Now it has a different cargo: a small team, a few drones, and a device that looks like a pile of junk and old ship parts. Frank is broad-shouldered, with kind eyes that do not match his job. Before the stars opened, he used to run rescue missions during floods. On the Mississippi coast, he has carried old folks out of sinking houses, pets out of burning apartments. War was never his dream. But when Alpha Centauri burned on his screen, he did not hesitate to sign up for the dangerous list. "Team check," he says into his mic. "Blackwood here," comes Susan's voice. Commander Susan Blackwood sits in her own small craft, docked belly to belly with Frank's shuttle. Her hair is cropped short. A scar runs along her left hand, the only mark left from the fire that killed her brother in an old factory on Mars. That loss is why she joined the service. She is calm under pressure. People follow her because she always seems to know the least bad choice. Frank, Susan says, Vicari convoy just dropped out of FTL on schedule. 3 heavy carriers, 4 escorts. They think they are alone. Bless their hearts, Frank mutters. Ready with the decoy? The device between their ships activates. Outside, it throws out a slow, broad signal. To Vicari sensors, it will look like the FTL wake of a damaged support ship, drifting and easy to steal. The Vicari love easy prey. Their convoy turns a little, adjusting course. One of the escorts breaks off to inspect the damaged target. On the human bridge, Frank's pilot shakes her head in awe. "How many times have we used this trick on our own pirates?" she says. "Doesn't matter," Frank replies. Works on bullies of all flavors. The escort closes in. Its shields are down at the front to allow a docking clamp. Its weapons stay cold. Inside, the Vicari captain is already imagining the minor honor of capturing a human support craft early in the war. He never gets that honor. The moment the Vicari docking clamps latch, Susan sends the code. Panels on the outside of the junk device fall away, revealing a swarm of machines no bigger than drinking bottles. They are shaped like seeds with tiny, sharp legs. They scuttle over the docking arm and onto the Vicari hull. "Boarding drones are in," Susan says. "Frank, you're up." Frank's team launches a focused beam of energy along the docking path, disguised as a power surge. It fries the Vicari ship's external cameras for 3 seconds. That is all they need. The drones cut through armor at pre-marked spots and tunnel into the ship's guts. They do not target crew quarters. They do not seek to vent the ship into vacuum. Their task is careful. Find the brain of the ship, its central control core, and stun it. In the Vicari bridge, lights flicker, interfaces freeze. The captain barks orders, no response. One by one, control systems go dark, replaced by a single human symbol in their displays. A blue circle. Then, the Vicari ship's engines shut off. To any watcher, it looks like a simple system failure. Escort 3 is dead in space, Susan says. No casualties detected. Vicari crew is alive but locked out of control. Good, Frank answers. Mark it as salvage. Earth will tow it later. Let's move. The rest of the convoy, bound by rigid doctrine, stays in tight formation and continues toward its target. Losing one ship is not enough for them to break orders. They do not even realize that in a few more jumps, other accidents will happen. Fuel leaks, sensor failures, random meteor strikes from disguised railgun shots placed just so. Over days and weeks, this pattern repeats. Human teams do not crash into the Vicari line head-on. They pick at the edges. They capture supply ships instead of killing them. They jam communications at critical moments, so Vicari admirals make decisions based on 10-minute-old data in a fight that moves in microseconds. On the Sentinel, Admiral Reeves and Commander Olivia Wright watch these small moves stack up into something larger. Our casualty numbers are still painful, Olivia says, pointing at a chart, but they are far lower than a direct fleet engagement would give us. Our people are holding. Morale? Reeves asks. High, she says. They are angry, sir, but it is a focused anger. They want the war over fast, with minimal harm to those who did not choose it. This is the third thing the Vicari do not understand about humans. Why they choose harder, slower paths when a quick kill seems possible. On a covert base hidden in the shadow of an icy moon, Susan Blackwood stands before her team. You all know what we're doing here, she says. We will hit a Vicari fuel depot in 3 days. We will not blow it into a star. We will not kill the workers. We will break their machines just enough that they cannot send their heavy fleets toward Earth for at least a month. A hand goes up in the back. Commander, a young technician says, wouldn't it be safer for us if we just destroyed the whole station? No chance for repairs. No chance they bounce back. Susan looks at the circle of faces. Some are hardened. Some are too young, eyes still wide at their first real war. It might be safer for us in the very short term, she says, but think about who lives on that station. Most of them are not soldiers, they are workers. Families, kids. If we slaughter them, we teach the Vicari that we are like them. That is not who we are. We are here to stop this war, not write the first chapter of the next one. Frank, standing nearby, nods. Besides, he adds, people talk, stories travel. Imagine being a Vicari worker who watched humans come in, shut down weapons, and leave you alive. You will remember that. You might tell your children humans are dangerous, but fair. The team holds his gaze slowly. The young technician nods. All right, Susan says. Get some rest. We go silent in 6 hours. As the war stretches from days into weeks, patterns grow clear. Humans are willing to stay awake on watch longer than Vicari planners believed possible. They are willing to spend days crammed into tiny compartments with little food and less comfort if it means being in the right place at the right moment. They accept personal risk to protect civilians, even enemy ones. They hack Vicari systems, not just to win battles, but to send short, simple messages into Vicari civilian networks. We do not seek your worlds, we only defend ours. Your rulers chose this. In the Vicari High Fleet rooms, this behavior breaks assumptions. Why do they not strike our colonies? A Vicari strategist demands, slamming a fist onto a table. Why not bomb our food worlds? That is what we would do. Perhaps they are weak. Another says. Perhaps, says Supreme Commander Voss. Eyes narrow. They are deciding what kind of enemy they want us to think they are. He calls up a feed showing captured human broadcasts, images of Earth's healed forests, clean oceans, children in schools learning under clear skies. These are not the pictures of a species that wants to burn the galaxy, Voss says quietly. But neither are they pictures of a species that will bow. On Earth, the cost of every choice shows in quiet ways. In a hospital in New Nairobi, Lisa Daniels visits wounded crew from the Meridian. Some lost limbs to decompression, some lost friends, and ask the same question in different words. Is this worth it? Lisa sits by their beds, listening. She does not give grand speeches. It has to be worth it. She tells a young engineer whose hands are wrapped in regrowth gel. Because the other choice is to do nothing, to let them teach our children that we are prey. At night, when she is alone, she replays the last frame from Alpha Centauri. The red ball, the reaching hand. She lets herself cry where no one can see. Then she wipes her face and goes back to work. The dragon is now fully awake. It is not a monster roaring in all directions. It is a patient, watchful thing, striking only when needed, holding back when a strike would feel good, but do more harm than good. The Vicari Empire has met a young, primitive species that fights in a way they have never had to face. Not for glory, not for conquest, but for a future they are already trying to build past the war. In the quiet between battles on a small observation deck of the Meridian, Jack Harrison stands with Lisa, watching Earth turn below. "Do you think they'll ever see us the way we see ourselves?" he asks. Lisa thinks for a long time before answering. "Maybe not," she says, "but they will learn this much. We are not safe to bully. And when this is over, if we have any say, we will be the ones helping rebuild. Even for them." Jack nods slowly. "That's the part they'll never understand," he says. "Not until they see it far away." In Vicari space, plans are being made for a single massive strike, meant to end human resistance in one blow. The sleeping dragon is ready, so are the people who chose to wake it. Supreme Commander Voss stands in the high war room of the Vicari capital. Vicari Prime, around him the star map hangs in the air, glowing red and blue. Red for Vicari fleets, blue for human forces and defense sites. There are more blue dots than Voss expected after such a short war. He studies the map in silence. Other officers shift on their feet, waiting. "The pattern holds," says strategist Carol, pointing with a thin claw. "They do not strike our core worlds. They do not burn colonies or target food routes. They only hit supply and military targets, carefully. Always carefully." And yet, another officer snaps. "They cost us convoys, escorts, fuel. Our soldiers mutter about them. They call humans ghost fighters. They fear docking arms and salvage beacons. This is not acceptable." The room goes quiet. "Fear is useful," he says, "but not when it belongs to our own side." He turns his eyes to the bright blue dot that marks Sol, the human home system. "They think small teams and tricks can save them," Voss says. "They think hiding behind laws and careful strikes will break our will. It is time to show them what an empire does when annoyed." He lifts his hand, and the map zooms toward Earth. "This is our plan," he says. "We send a main battle fleet straight into their home system. We strike Earth's orbitals, their yards, their proud flagships. We do not glass the planet. We only break the parts that reach for the stars. We leave their blue ball turning under us as a reminder. Stay in your cradle." An officer frowns. "Supreme Commander, Conclave Law, Conclave Law." Voss laughs, a harsh sound. Where was Conclave Law when that human captain answered our general in public? Where was law when their rats crawled over our escort hulls? No, the Conclave is polite talk. This is war. He draws a circle around Sol with a claw. "The humans defend well in small bites," he says. "We will give them a large mouthful. Our first strike will take out their system defenses. Our second will cripple their industry. After that, their politicians will beg for terms." Corral glances down at a side screen. There is also this, Corral says, a little uneasy, Professor Zek's old report. Vassus lip curls. Zex, he says. Years ago, before humans ever reached the conclave, a Vicari scientist named Zex had studied Earth signals, early probes and fragmentary data. His report had been strange. Humans show high risk, Zex had written, not because of current weapons, but because of behavior patterns. They adapt fast. They rebuild faster. When hit hard, they tend to come back, not only angry, but improved. He had urged caution, slow contact, careful limits. The High Council filed his report away. The Empire had stood for 1,000 years. It had crushed dozens of fast learners. The words feel different after months of watching human tactics. Shall we review it, Supreme Commander? Curl asks. Voss closes the file with a flick. No, he says. I will not let an old scholar's fears stop a needed blow. Prepare the fleet. In the outer darkness, far from any star, a Vicari armada gathers. Hundreds of ships flash into normal space, one by one, forming up into tight wedges and layered walls. Carriers, destroyers, siege platforms, support craft. The combined fire of this group could melt continents if aimed at a planet. Their course is simple. Target Sol. On the sentinel above Earth, Admiral Reeves leans on the rail as the tactical display updates. A red mass appears at the border of known space. Size? He asks. Olivia Wright's face is pale in the glow of screens. Worst case, she says. This is not a raid. Sir, this is meant to end us. Around Earth, the sleeping dragon network hums quietly. It does not look like much from a distance. To foreign eyes, Sol is still just a bright yellow star. A few rocky planets, some belts of ice and stone. The trick is that those rocks and ice chunks are not as simple as they look. Signal all platforms, Reeves says. Code word. Full wake. Across the solar system, old stones move. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, what looks like slow, harmless debris begins to turn together. Plate-like surfaces slide, clicks of metal ring through vacuum as hidden hatches open. What was once a scattered set of mining stations and survey nodes now links up by tight lasers and narrow-band FTL pulses. Guidance programs written by engineers on 4 continents come alive along the orbit of Mars. Fuel depots unmask railgun barrels, long as skyscrapers. In the shadow of Neptune, a cluster of dark, egg-shaped probes warm up their drives. They were hidden among comet shards for decades. Now they drift free, adjusting course with tiny puffs of gas. Near Earth itself, the most shocking change happens in the junk. For 200 years, humans have put things in orbit. Satellites, broken stations, old hull plates, loose tools. Many were taken down or burned up. Many were not. To anyone looking, the clutter still seems random. It is not. As the Vicari fleet begins its final FTL jump chain toward Sol, Thousands of pieces of debris around Earth flash tiny blue lights. Magnetic locks snap on, wire nets tighten. Engines hidden inside hollow panels kick in. Orbit begins to organize. A wide, thin shell of linked trash and disguised armor plates forms around Earth. Like a net, it will not stop a full fleet, but it will break lines of fire, absorb hits, and force attackers to waste shots on junk instead of cities. On the civilian channels, panicked messages fly. Is this real? Are we under attack? My daughter's on Luna base. What is Project Sleeping Dragon? The news feed says the United Earth Council releases a calm, short broadcast. This is a confirmed hostile action by the Vicari Empire against our home system, the voice says. Our defenses are active. All civilians follow your local shelter and evacuation plans. Trust your local leaders. We prepared for this. On Luna, children are rushed from playground domes into underground shelters. On Mars, miners leave surface pits and head into deep tunnels. On free-floating stations, families strap into acceleration couches as platforms shift into combat mode. In the command pit of the Meridian, Captain Jack Harrison watches the red markers forming at Soul's Edge. They're coming straight for us, Lisa Daniels says. No scouts, no tests. Bullies, Jack says. They want the big, showy punch. He taps his console. Jack to all human ships in Sol, he says on the commandette. This is it. Remember our rules. We do not shoot at surrendering ships. We do not waste shots on civilian targets. We focus on stopping their guns, not taking out our anger. We win today so we can build tomorrow. On the Vicari flagship Glory of Vengeance, Supreme Commander Voss stands ready. His fleet drops out of FTL at the outer edge of the solar system, just beyond Pluto's orbit. Spread to attack positions, he orders. We will break their outer defenses in a single sweep. Sensors reach out. At first, the report is as expected. Scattered small platforms. Some active weapons. Mining sites, a sensor tech says. They are stronger than expected, but not strong enough. Voss nods. Proceed. The fleet surges forward. Then a second sensor tech frowns. Something is odd, she says. There are changes in asteroid motion. Be poor. She can finish. The first surprise hits. From behind and between the larger asteroids, hidden drives ignite. Whole rocks, hollowed for centuries and filled with engine pods, weapons and armor, change course at once. They are not fast. But they do not have to be. They have been waiting directly in the path of the oncoming fleet. Mass, signatures, ahead, the tech shouts. Unknown. No, they're asteroids, but they're vectors. The forward Vicari wedges try to turn. Their formation breaks for a moment. Railguns on mining platforms that had sat silent for decades fire in perfect rhythm. Slugs of dense metal scream through space at a fraction of light speed. They do not aim at the thickest armored parts of the Vicari ships. They aim at joints, sensor masts, engine clusters. Shields flare. Sunshots are stopped. Many are not, for Vicari destroyers lose drives and start to tumble. A carrier's main forward shield fails at the exact moment a disguised comet chunk slams into it, revealing the chunk as a thick armor spear driven by a hidden engine. The carrier shudders, spins, and begins to tear itself apart along a line of weakness. A human engineer guessed might be there. Random debris strike. A Vicari officer shouts at first. No, Voss says slowly, eyes narrowing. Nothing about this is random. As his fleet pushes in, the solar system rearranges itself like a trap finally sprung. Near Neptune, the dark egg-shaped probes that had warmed up begin their job. They race inward, then scatter ahead of the Vicari ships and release thin clouds of sensors and reflectors. To Vicari scanners, the space ahead now fills with fake targets and confusing reflections. Some ships are not there. Some empty gaps hide real guns. Outer system defense platforms do not try to kill every Vicari hull. They cannot. Instead, they aim at shape and motion. They cut off the tips of wedges so they cannot punch deep. They knock out rear engines so ships become obstacles for those behind them. They hit comm relays so orders arrive late or not at all. Commander Olivia Wright watches the mess grow on her display. Vicari formations are collapsing into clumps, she says. They are trying to keep tight, but the rocks and junk keep forcing them apart. Reeves nods. Move to phase 2, he says. Draw them inward. He sends a signal. In Martian orbit, old fuel haulers detach from their moorings. They are large, ugly ships that once dragged ice and gas from the outer system. Now they turn toward the inner lanes, like geese taking flight. Inside, crews sit strapped in, hands ready on manual controls. Their job is simple and deadly. Get in the way. They are not meant to survive this part. They all know it. One pilot, a woman from the Philippines who used to ferry tourists around Mars, checks a photo taped to her console. Two kids standing on a red rock ridge, smiling in the thin air. She touches it gently. Stay on the ground today, babies. She says under her breath, Mama's got work. At preset points, the fuel haulers cut engines and move into drifting positions. They are thick, reinforced tanks full of water and slush, walled with foam and old armor. When Vicari beams hit them, they boil, flare, and turn into huge, bright, messy clouds of gas and frozen chunks. They become walls of smoke in space. Inside those clouds, hidden behind boiling vapor and ice, small human attack craft and missile swarms wait, sensors tuned to pick out Vicari hulls. The Vicari push forward, angry and confused. Their orders say to reach Earth. Their doctrine says a direct line is best, but now every direct line hurts. They shoot at tank clouds and hit hidden armor nets. They shoot at junk and miss small hard missiles deeper inside. They go around one obstacle and run into another. Near Jupiter, a second wave of the dragon wakes. For decades, Human engineers sent small robots to the gas giants' moons. Some dug under ice, some built tiny, quiet radio stations. Now those stations turn on. Jupiter Net is up. An officer on the Sentinel calls. We have full sensor lock on mid-system. Admiral Reeves studies the updated picture. Their main mass will break through, Olivia says. We've slowed them. We've hurt them. But they still have enough hulls to reach Earth. Reeves nods. That was always going to happen. Now we show them the part we kept closest to the chest. To Vicari eyes, they look soft. Passenger liners, cargo barges, slow tugs. Easy to swat aside, but much like the junk in orbit, they are not what they seem. Under decorative panels and cargo crates, they carry hard points for armor plates. Their frames are designed to lock together. Some hold generators strong enough to power a small city. Others carry nothing but mass, thick blocks of rock and metal. As alarms blare, pilots and captains follow orders sent months ago in secret drills. The civilian fleet forms a rough, moving wall between Earth and the path of the Vicari approach. Ships dock side by side, nose to tail, belly to belly. Transfer tubes and docking arms become structural braces. Inside, passengers feel the shudder as their cruise liner becomes part of a shield. Are we going to fight? A boy asks his father, clutching his hand. We're going to protect home, the father says, voice shaking a little. Some civilian ships, by prior choice of their crews, take a different role. They are empty of people now. Their captains watched the news, heard the council's call for volunteers, and agreed to a hard plan. Those ships aim not to block, but to ram. Heavily reinforced bows, overloaded engines, simple routes. They are last-ditch knives. Lisa Daniels watches the formation from the Meridian's bridge. We're using cruise liners as armor, she says quietly. It's crazy, a junior officer mutters. It's human, Lisa answers. We turn what we have into what we need. When the Vicari fleet finally breaks through the last outer layers of the Dragon and comes into the inner system, they do not see a helpless blue world. They see a star system that has turned itself into a maze of guns, shields, and moving obstacles. They also see something else. DAPs. Not all Vicari ships are equally dangerous. Some are old, some carry outdated weapons, some are support craft. Project Sleeping Dragon has a file on each known class, built from months of stolen data and combat logs. Reves orders are strict. The deadliest hulls must die. Others, if safely crippled, should be allowed paths to run. Why let them escape? Olivia had asked when they wrote that part of the plan. Because fear spreads faster than metal, Reeves had said. If a few survive to tell the story, maybe we won't need to fight this war twice. Now, as beams and slugs fly between the armadas, those choices are put into practice. Human guns focus on command ships, heavy carriers, siege platforms. They snap at weapon mounts and bridge sections. Less dangerous ships find their engines shot out, but their life support left intact. On the Glory of Vengeance, Voss grips the rail. he shouts over the chaos. Outer screen shattered. An officer gasps. Second carrier gone. Half our escorts crippled. We have lost clear contact with the left flank. And they are not finishing some of our disabled ships. Voss glares at the main screen. On it, he sees a Vicari cruiser spinning slowly, fires along its hull. No enemy shots hit it now. Instead, human fighters shoot at something else. Why? He growls. Why leave an enemy alive? A memory stirs. Professor Zex's old report again, talking about humans that choose their fights, that care about rules, even when under threat. He cannot afford doubt. Push through, he orders. We are nearly at their world. Once we shatter their orbitals, they will fold. But not all his captains obey with full faith. In one damaged destroyer, Captain Rallick watches human ships fly by his crippled hull. They could kill him. They do not. He hears the faint ping of a broadcast coming through a side channel. It is in a rough Vicari accent, clearly machine-shaped, but the words are simple. Vicari crew, you are disabled. We will not fire if you do not fire. Flee if you can. Stand down if you can. This is not your war. Rallick stares. He thinks of his mate and child back on a cold, airless mining moon. Told that this war would be quick and glorious. These humans, he murmurs. Up ahead, the core of the Vicari fleet slams into Earth's. Last defenses. The junk shield around the planet glows and boils as beams tear through it. Pieces fall burning into the atmosphere, lighting up the sky in long streaks. On the ground, people look up from shelters and basements, seeing bright lines cross the heavens. They hear thunder from high above. In orbit, human warships and armed stations fight at knife range. The Meridian takes a glancing hit that spins it like a top. Lisa is thrown against her harness hard enough to bruise ribs. Stabilizers? Jack calls. Back in line comes the answer. Shields at 40%. Weapons still up. Then we stay, Jack says. We hold. Civilian shield ships shudder as Vicari fire slams into them. Others hold together, armor blackened, generators screaming. And then, as carefully timed by Reeves and his planners, projectors across the system fire in unison. They do not fire weapons. They fire light, a shaped, tight beam FTL broadcast blasts toward the Vicari fleet from dozens of points. Jupiter net, Martian platforms, Luna stations, Earth orbit. It carries one message and one image. The message, translated into Vicari, is clear. Your empire began this war with a spit and a slaughter. We answered by stopping your guns, not burning your worlds. You are now inside our home. Look around. See what waking a patient species can do. The image is split screen. On one side, footage of Alpha Centauri station, the children in the gym, the sudden blast. On the other side, a live view of Earth, blue and white, still spinning, still alive, even as debris burns overhead. Even as debris burns overhead, and command pits across the Vicari fleet Officers see their own reflected in human eyes. Many look away. On Vicari Prime, buried deep in archives, Professor Zex's report pings a notification as an aide opens it again, hands shaking. "We should have listened," the aide whispers. Back in the glory of vengeance, Voss watches as more of his ships go dark. Some are killed, some shut down on purpose, raising surrender signals. Others break formation and flee outward instead of inward, engines flaring hard. Fear has taken hold, not the wild fear of instant defeat, but the slow, heavy fear of a foe that does not break when struck, that uses every part of its house as a weapon, and that chooses, even now, not to use its full power on civilians. "We cannot hold this line," Corral says softly. "If we stay, we risk losing the core of our fleet. If we fall back, we admit that humans stopped us at their very first home defense." Voss wants to scream, to order a final charge, to prove that Vicari honor can still crush an upstart species. But another thought, cold and sharp, finally cuts through his pride. If this is how hard they fight at the beginning, what will they be like in 10 years? In 50? What if this fight lights a fire in them that never goes out? He stares at the blue world on the screen and feels, for the first time, something like respect, twisted with fear. "Order retreat," he says. The word tastes like old metal in his mouth. A round soul, surviving Vicari ships that still have engines turn away, pushing for the edge of the system. Human weapons take a final toll, crippling more of them, but Rivest's standing rule holds. "Let some go," he says. "Let them carry the story. The battle is over, but the cost is high. The dragon has done its job. Earth stands. Many human ships do not. On the Meridian, fires are out, but the wounded groan in the med bay." Lisa walks the corridors, stopping to squeeze hands, to meet eyes, to promise that names will be remembered. Jack stands at a viewport, looking at Earth. From this angle, it still looks peaceful. Clouds swirl, oceans shine. The scars of orbit are hard to see from here. Lisa joins him. "We did it," she says quietly. "They ran." "For now," Jack says. But this is where everything changes. He is right. Across the galaxy, the news of the failed Vicari strike spreads faster than FTL drives can carry ships. At the conclave, delegates watch footage of asteroids turning into guns, of junk forming shields, of civilians becoming part of a defense line. They hear that humans allowed ships to escape when they could have destroyed them. They see that an empire considered unstoppable has been bloodied at the edge of a young star's light. On Vicari Prime, scared families hear rumors of human messages slipping into secure channels, telling them that the doomsday plans of their own rulers are worse than any human threat. Professor Zex, called back from quiet teaching duty, sits before a council and says 4 simple words. "I warned you," he says. "Now you must listen." Fear grows in the Vicari ranks, not just fear of human guns, but fear of what their own leaders might do next if cornered. The dragon goes back to watching, guns cooling, sensors scanning. For a brief, strange moment, the galaxy holds its breath. It has just learned that humans are something new, a species that can turn its whole star system into a trap when pushed, and yet, even in the middle of battle, still holds back. From total slaughter, the war is not over, but from now on, no one in the galaxy will ever again think of Earth as a harmless, naive world under a shy little flag. The Vicari retreat from Sol is not neat. It is broken and messy. Some ships jump out with engines screaming. Some crawl away with sparks pouring from their hulls. Some just sit. Lights dim, crews waiting for rescue. That will not come. Humans do not chase deep into Vicari space. They hold the edges of the solar system and focus on search and rescue, on repairs, on counting the cost. But the war is not finished. It has only moved from open battle to something quieter and in some ways more dangerous. In a secure room on the Sentinel, Admiral Reeves meets with his senior staff. A holographic map of Vicari territory hangs in the air, bright red. "We have proof they can't simply crush us," Olivia Wright says, "but they still have bigger fleets. More worlds, more factories. If they regroup and come again, we may not hold so well a second time." Reeves nods. "We need to end this on terms that stop them from trying again at all." Jack Harrison's image appears on a side screen from the Meridian. "Peace talks?" he asks. "Will they even listen after losing face like that?" "Not yet," Reeves says. "Their pride won't allow it." And there's something else. He taps a control. A new file appears, labeled in sharp red letters. VR Prime Project Fennel Fire. This came from the ship we captured near Ceres, Olivia says. Data core was badly damaged, but our people pulled this out. We think it's a plan for a doomsday device. System-level destruction. Lisa, sitting beside Jack, leans forward. "How bad?" "Bad enough," Olivia replies, "if we read this right. It's a chain of devices buried near key stars. Trigger it, and it causes those stars to flare or collapse. Entire systems go with them. They plan to use it if their core worlds are ever in danger. So if they think the Empire is about to fall," Jack says slowly, "they'll try to take half the map with them, or more," Reeves says. "We can't just keep hitting them until they break. If we push that far, they might light the whole galaxy on fire out of spite." He looks straight at Susan Blackwood, who stands near the wall, silent until now. "That's why your next job matters more than any raid you've done so far," Reeves says. "We need someone on the ground on Vicari Prime. We need proof of this device. We need a way to stop it. And we need options that aren't just win harder." Susan meets his eyes. "Understood, Admiral," she says. Inside, her stomach knots. Infiltrating a core enemy world is close to suicide. But she also sees something else. A path to an end that doesn't mean burning whole star systems. She thinks of the miners and workers they spared, of the young Vicari she once saw on a hacked feed, clutching a stuffed toy as alarms blared on a station they disabled but did not destroy. If we don't do this, she thinks, those kids may never grow up. She nods once, sharper this time. "It'll take a team," she says. "Get us there. Well, do the rest." Vicari Prime is not what most humans imagined. From space, It is a dark, heavy world, lit by thin bands of city lights and the hard glint of orbital platforms. Its sun is cooler than Earth's, its sky more gray than blue. The planet's surface is crisscrossed with deep cracks and scars, lined with metal. But there is life here. In the cracks are farms under domes. In the dense cities are markets, homes, learning halls. There are children here, too, running under low, red-tinted street lamps. Susan's team does not drop in guns blazing. Some Ps know would fail in seconds. Instead, they arrive as shadows. A captured Vicari logistics ship, now under human control, makes a normal stop at a cargo hub above Vicari Prime. It passes inspection. Its codes check out, thanks to months of careful study by human hackers. Inside a sealed compartment, Susan's squad waits in armored suits, lined with mimic panels. When the ship is docked and internal scans pass, a hidden hatch in the storage bay drops them into a maintenance shaft. From there, they move. Stay low. Stay quiet. Susan says over the tight link. No fights unless we have no choice. Our goal is the device, not a body count. Frank Martinez, now her second on this mission, grunts softly. I preferred ramming cargo ships, he mutters. At least then I knew where the danger was. Welcome to sneaky work, Susan replies. You'll live longer if you're scared. They pass through tunnels, service ducts, abandoned subway lines from older days. Their suits project false shadows onto cameras. Above them, Vicari citizens go about daily life under strong state news feeds. Official channels say the attack on Saul was a tactical retreat to draw humans into a trap. Pictures of the damaged fleet are cropped and polished. Numbers of dead are not mentioned. Other messages, though, are less tidy. Short, sharp human broadcasts, sent via micro-relays and hijacked personal devices, slip through in bursts. You are not the enemy, they say in simple Vicari. Your rulers began this. We do not seek your worlds. We only defend ours. Some citizens scoff and turn off the screen. Others, especially younger ones, tilt their heads and wonder. In a quiet study room, Professor Zax watches these messages, eyes sad. He knows his warnings were ignored. He knows what kind of plan Final Fire is. He also knows where it is hidden. That is why, when a coded signal from deep under the city reaches his personal terminal, he does not call security. He answers. Susan's team enters a wide underground chamber, lit by cold white lights. In its center, surrounded by guards and heavy doors, stands a cluster of machines that hum with slow power. Pillars of black metal rise from the floor. Thick cables, wider than a human body, curve into the rock. Symbols are carved into the pillars in old Vicari script. In victory, rule. In defeat, fire. This is it. Frank whispers. Has to be. The doomsday device is not a single bomb. It is a control core, a heart that can send signals through hidden FTL lines to triggers near distant stars. Destroy this core, and the weapon might be stopped, or it might simply move to backup systems hidden somewhere else. Hold Susan says. We don't touch it yet. A door at the far end opens. Out beyond opens. Guards move aside for a thin, older Vicari in simple robes. Susan steps out of the shadow, her helmet plate shifting from mimic mode to clear. For the first time, he sees a human face with his own eyes. He flinches, then studies her closely. You are smaller than I pictured, he says. In halting human tongue, he learned from old signals. You're braver than your rulers, Susan replies quietly. You answered us. I am old, he says. Old minds sometimes grow tired of fear, and I have seen enough reports to know this. If this device is triggered, your soul will not be the only system to die. Many others, including mine, will go. My students, my family. He looks past her at the core. I helped design the FTL links that make this possible, he says. Long ago, when I thought it was only a theory, I gave them the knife. I did not think they would sharpen it for this. Susan watches his face. We need proof, she says. Data we can show your people, your officers, the galaxy. We need them to see that your emperor is ready to kill his own. Sex nods, slow and heavy. I can get you that proof, he says. I can also show you how to shut this core down, but not forever. They can rebuild somewhere else, if given enough time and fear. So we need more than codes, Susan says. We need a way to make them afraid to even try. She looks at her squad at the core, at Zex. A simple, brutal choice sits in front of her. Set charges, blow the room, and hope it breaks the weapon enough, quick, satisfying. But if they do that, they get no proof, no change in Vicari hearts. The rulers will call it an enemy trick and use it to tighten control, to speed up new final fires. She shakes her head. No, she says. We're not here to kick over the table. We're here to show your people what's on it. High above, in the war room on Vicari Prime, Supreme Commander Voss stands before a small group of elite leaders. The Emperor himself sits on a raised seat, wrapped in heavy robes and gold. Our fleets will rebuild, the Emperor says with cold certainty. Our enemies are young. They think this one battle means anything. It does not. He taps a claw on an armrest. If they push too far, we will remind the galaxy what happens when an empire falls, he says. We will light the dust and let it burn. Our name will be carried in fire. Voss bows his head. Part of him thrills at the thought of such final power. Another part, quieter but growing, thinks of the screaming stars, of his own children's world turning to ash in a chain reaction. Is there no other way? He asks before he can stop himself. The Emperor's eyes narrow. Are you questioning imperial wisdom, Voss? Voss swallows hard. No, my Emperor, he says quickly. Only asking about timing. Timing is mine to decide. The Emperor snaps. Your task is to keep our enemies afraid. When I am ready, we will give the order. At that moment, an alert flashes red on a side panel. Unauthorized data transfer. Deep under the city, The Emperor's eyes flick to it, then back to Voss. "Stop it," he says. "Now." In the core chamber, alarms begin to wail. "They know," Frank says, tightening his grip on his rifle. Susan looks at Zex. He has his hands inside an access panel, moving with quick, practiced motions. Almost there, he mutters, "They built this on my work. They forgot I remember the oldest doors." Data scrolls across Susan's helmet display. Schematic after schematic of the Doomsday Network, signed documents from the Emperor and his council, cold plans for which systems to target first if Imperial survival falls below threshold. Earth is on the top list. So are several Vicari border worlds, marked as acceptable collateral to trigger wider chain reactions. Susan feels her chest tighten. She pushes the feeling down and flags the last file. "Got it," she says. "Package complete. Sending to fleet." High above, on the Sentinel, Olivia watches as a huge burst of stolen data appears on her screens. "This is it," she says. "It's worse than we thought." Reeve stares at the list of doomed systems, human and non-human. "If we push their core, they will use this," he says. "If we back off without showing this to anyone, they'll keep it ready for the next war." He makes a choice. "Prepare a galaxy-wide broadcast," he says. "No encryption, no filters. We show everyone." "Sir," Olivia says, eyes wide, including our own people, all at once. "Won't that cause panic?" "Yes," Reeve says. "Better panic than blind trust. And we don't show it as a horror we can't stop. We show it as a choice the Vicari rulers are making right now. Then we show that some of their own people stood against it." He opens a link to Susan. "Commander Blackwood," he says. "Step 2. You ready?" In the core, Susan hears his voice through static and alarm shrieks. "Ready," she says. "Zex." The old Vicari pulls his hands from the panel, sweat beads on his brow. "I can put the device in a safe state," he says. "Locked behind a key that only I know. But if they kill me, they can break it again in time." Susan thinks for half a heartbeat. "Then we don't just shut it down," she says. "We show that you shut it down in front of your people." She opens a line through the device's own broadcast array, which was built to send silent, deadly signals across the stars. Now it will carry something louder. Every major screen on Vicari Prime flickers. The Emperor's face vanishes mid-speech. State news feeds cut. In their place appears a live view of the core chamber. A human stands there, helmet off, face clear. Beside her stands Professor Zex. Behind them looms the black metal heart of Final Fire. The translator kicks in for Vicari viewers. "I am a human soldier." Beside me is Professor Zex, a citizen of the Vicari Empire. The machine behind us is a doomsday device designed and ordered by your Emperor. It is meant to destroy whole star systems if he fears losing this war. In homes, schools, and barracks, Vicari lean closer. Some shout at the screen. Some laugh it off as a trick. Then Zek steps forward. "This is no lie," he says, speaking in his own tongue. "I helped design the FTL field, links. I have seen the orders. I have seen the target lists. Your worlds, my worlds, are marked as fuel for a final fire." He presses a series of symbols on a panel. The device's glow dims. Status lights shift from red to blue, then to a steady white, and to a steady white. "I have locked this core," Zek says. "I have set it so that only my voice, print, and key can wake it again. I will not do so." On the war room screen, the Emperor leaps to his feet. "Cut the feed," he roars. "Find that traitor. Kill them all." Voss watches him, stomach twisting. On side channels, reports flood in. Units refusing to move on civilian crowds, officers hesitating to storm the vault where Zek stands. Susan looks into the camera. "We broke into your most guarded room," she tells the Vicari people. "We could have planted charges. We could have destroyed this whole site and let your rulers blame it on us to fuel more hate. We chose not to." Her voice stays flat, but her eyes burn. "We are not here to burn your worlds," she says. "We are here to stop your leaders from burning any eons, including you." On the Sentinel, Reeves adds his face to a split-screen feed, sending it to the wider galaxy. "I am Admiral William Reeves of Earth," he says. "You are all seeing this at the same time. We have proof that the Vicari regime built a weapon that would destroy dozens of systems if faced with defeat. Some of those systems are Vicari, some belong to neutral states, some are ours." He lets the file scroll beside his image. Signed orders, diagrams, star charts. "We will not push this war to the point where that trigger is pulled," Reeves says. "We will not march on Vicari Prime with fire. We offer a different path. Stand down your fleets, remove those who ordered this device, and we will end active attacks. We will open talks under Conclave watch. We will even help you dismantle what is left of this weapon, so no one can ever use it." He leans closer. "But know this," he says. "If your rulers try to destroy the galaxy out of pride, we will do everything in our power to stop them. Not just for us, for everyone." The broadcast races across FTL relays, through hacked channels, down to hand terminals in distant bars. On neutral worlds, people stare in shock. On allied worlds, some cheer. Some shake their heads, afraid of how close they came to never seeing another sunrise. On Vicari Prime, something strange happens. Citizens pour into streets, not with weapons against humans, but with signs and shouts against their own leaders. No final fire. Some chant, "We will not burn for your honor." Others cry. In military barracks, soldiers look at one another, then at their officers. Will we really destroy our own families? A young recruit asks his captain. The captain, who still has burn marks from the Sol battle, thinks of the human message that spared his disabled ship. Not for them, he says, nodding toward a poster of the Emperor. Not for this. Units begin to refuse orders. Some guard houses worried about chaos. Some turn their weapons not outward, but upward, toward the palaces and command towers. Supreme Commander Voss stands between two hallways in the war complex. Down one lies the Emperor's private chamber, down the other, the path to the core room where Zex and Susan stand. His guards wait for his order. He hears the distant roar of protesting crowds. He sees the fear in his soldiers' eyes. He thinks of human traps in the Sol system, built not just to kill, but to scare. He thinks of the message that said, "This is not your war, it is your Emperor's." He has spent his life serving a banner he never thought to question. Now for the first time he does. Slowly he turns toward the Emperor's chamber. "Stand down," he tells his guards. "You will not fire on armed citizens. You will not defend a ruler who plans to burn your families for pride." "Sir?" One starts, shocked. "That is an order," Voss says, voice like iron. "If you must point those weapons today, point them away from your own people." He walks into the Emperor's chamber without asking permission. The Emperor spins, rage on his face. "You," he snarls, "you let this happen. You let the humans into our heart." "No," Voss says quietly. "You did when you built that machine." He steps closer. "The humans beat us in open battle at their home," Voss says. "They could have tried to push here with fleets and fire. Instead, they sent a small team to risk their lives under our feet. Not to kill, but to show us this." He points upward where the broadcast still glows faintly on the wall, showing Zex standing by the muted core. "They chose not to become us," Voss says. "We still have time not to become worse than we already are." The Emperor reaches for a hidden weapon. Voss is faster. Later, official records will say the Emperor died suddenly during a time of unrest. No one will name the cause. Many will guess. What matters more is what does not happen. The final fire sequence is never sent. In the core, Susan and her team hear orders barked over local comms. Not kill the intruders, but secure the device. Protect the professor, no lethal force against non-combatants. Zex sags with relief. "It may still be ugly," he says softly. "There will be power struggles, blame, danger. But no exploding stars," Frank says. "It'll take ugly." Susan opens a channel to the Sentinel. "Admiral," she says, "the device is in safe mode. Local forces are standing down. We're not being shot at." For the first time in days, Reeves lets out a long breath. For the first time in days, Reeves. Thinner Nady, no ship, and to the end too. Where's to kill? B. And Aso, where's tanned? All the thinned, B. No ship should be. "Good work," he says. 1 year later, the sky over Vicari Prime looks different. There are still cracks in the ground. The old scars of industry and war have not vanished, but new things fill them. On the edge of a former military district, a broad field of soil has been turned over, Rows of strange green plants sway under a clear dome. Human agronomists and Vicari farmers kneel side by side, checking roots. These will grow in your soil, a woman from Kenya says, holding up a leafy stalk. High yield, resistant to your local pests. No engineered seeds you have to buy again every year. You keep them, you plant them. They keep feeding you. A Vicari farmer, his claws thick with earth, tilts his head. You give us this, he asks, for free? Nothing is free, the woman says with a small smile. You'll be the ones doing the hard work. We're just sharing what we learned fixing our own broken fields. Nearby, a group of Vicari children and human kids run through a half-built park, chasing each other around piles of construction material. They shout in a mix of two languages, not caring who came from which world. On another side of the planet, a huge hangar once used to house assault craft has been turned into a rebuilding center. Human engineers in orange vests help Vicari crews dismantle parts of the doomsday network. Cores are taken apart piece by piece, dangerous parts melted down under guard. In the middle of the hangar, under a big protective cone, sits the heart from the first core that Susan saw. It is no longer hooked up. Power lines hang cut. Panels are open to the air. Professor X walks around it with a group of students, Vicari and human. He points at different parts. This, he says, was meant to kill stars. You will help make sure no one ever builds its like again. Learn how it works, not to copy it, but to see the signs if someone tries. A human teen raises a hand. Aren't you afraid? She asks. Being near it, after what almost happened. Zex smiles sadly. I am more afraid, he says, of letting people forget. Up in orbit, the Meridian floats next to a half-finished Vicari hospital ship. Human and Vicari welders move back and forth across the gap like ants. Jack Harrison stands at a window, watching them work. Lisa joins him, holding 2 cups of strong tea. She hands him one. Remember when they called us pre-FTL fauna? She says. He snorts softly. They spat on us. And we're attacked our kids. Hard day, nearly set their own sky on fire. And now we're helping them rebuild. Lisa finishes. Jack shakes his head. No, he says. I think this is the only way to make sure none of that happens again. He sips the tea. When we woke the dragon, he says, I was afraid we'd never be able to put it back to sleep. That we'd get used to being scary, to being the species others tiptoe around. Some already do, Lisa says. You've seen the way some delegations look at us at the conclave now. Like we're a loaded gun sitting at the table. Jack nods. Maybe that's not all bad, he says, but I want them to see more than that. He gestures toward the work crews. I want them to see that the same minds that turned rocks and junk into weapons can turn them into schools and clinics just as fast, he says. That we're dangerous, yes, but by choice. That the real power isn't our guns. It's what we decide to do with them and when to put them down. Lisa smiles faintly. Spoken like a man who spent months writing peace protocols, she says. Spoken like a man who's tired, Jack replies, and who still remembers Alpha Centauri. His eyes go distant for a moment, seeing a red ball floating in a destroyed gym. We didn't fight this war to become a new empire, he says. We fought so no one could do that to us again. Now we have to prove we meant it. Back at the Galactic Conclave, the Grand Hall feels different than it did the day Drax spat on Jack's uniform. Jack stands on the same bridge of gravity, Lisa at his side. Behind them floats a larger human flag. It still has Earth on it, but now also small symbols for Mars, Luna, and a dozen orbital habitats. The hall is full. Many eyes are on them. Speaker Talek addresses the assembly. Today, Talek says, "We recognize the formal end of major hostilities between Earth and the Vicari worlds. The Empire as it was has fallen. In its place is a provisional council of worlds, working toward a new form of rule." On a nearby platform, a Vicari delegation stands. Their armor carries no imperial crest. Instead, they wear a simple symbol, a star with a line through it, the mark chosen to mean no final fire. Voss is there, older, his rank marks cut down. He is not Supreme Commander anymore. He is military liaison, a go-between. His shoulders are heavier. He meets Jack's gaze and gives the smallest of nods. Jack returns it. Talek continues. Earth chose a path few expected. The speaker says, they fought with great skill and creativity. Then, when they held advantage, they chose not to press for conquest or revenge, but for truth and rebuilding. This has changed how many of us think about power. Some delegates tap the rail in respect. Others sit stiff, worried about what this human way means for their own old habits. Jack steps forward to speak. A year ago, he says, our system burned at the edges. We saw what the Vicari could do. We saw what we could do in return. We did not enjoy any of it. He glances toward the Vicari delegation. We learned that we are capable of great harm when pushed, he says. But we also learned that we can choose to use that harm with limits, to say no not just to our enemies, but to the part of ourselves that wants the easy win at any cost. He looks around the hall. Some of you fear us now, he says, not softening the words. I understand. If I were you, I might too. You see what we did in our own system and think, we do not want that near us. He takes a breath. But hear this, he says. Our most dangerous weapon is not sleeping dragon. It is not clever traps. It is not any ship or gun. Our most dangerous weapon is choice. You saw it when we could have destroyed more and did not. You see it now when we help rebuild worlds that once sent fleets to kill our children. He lets the words settle. We ask for no special right to break conclave law, he continues. We do not seek to sit above anyone here. We only ask this. Do not mistake our wish for peace for weakness, and do not mistake our strength in war for love of it. Later, outside the hall, a young reporter from a neutral world will ask him a simple question. Captain Harrison, she says, What are humans then? To the galaxy, warriors, healers, something in between. Jack thinks for a moment. We're students, he says at last, of our own history, of yours. We spent centuries hurting each other and our planet, then more time learning how to fix what we broke. Now we're trying to remember those lessons while carrying more power than we ever have before. He smiles, a little tired, but real. If you want a short answer, he says, we are a species that is very dangerous when pushed, and just as fierce about putting things back together afterward. Judge us by both. Hold us to both. On Vicari Prime, a small memorial stands near the former core chamber. It is simple, a ring of stone, broken in one place, with a plaque in 2 languages. In Vicari, it says, "Here, we chose not to burn." In human script, it says, "Here, he chose not to win the wrong way." Susan Blackwood visits it quietly during a break in training new joint security teams. She runs her fingers along the plaque. Frank comes up beside her. "You ever think about just how close we came?" he asks. "Every day," she says. He looks around at the workers, the students, the half-rebuilt tunnels. "Worth it?" he asks. She nods. "It hurt," she says. "It still hurts." But watching kids from both sides play together, above where Star Killer once sat. Yeah, worth it. High above in Seoul, the sleeping dragon network is partly dismantled. Some hidden guns remain. Some traps stay ready. Earth is not foolish enough to forget that threats still exist, but many platforms are turned to other uses. Research labs, deep space telescopes, listening posts that watch for supernovas instead of war fleets. Humans know now that they can turn their house into a fortress when needed. They also know they can turn that same house into a school and a shelter when the danger passes. The galaxy has seen this too. The insult that started the war is a story now told in many versions. Some focus on the spit, some on the children lost at Alpha Centauri, some on the battle at Sol. The version that matters most, though, is the one that ends not with fire, but with a choice in a quiet underground room, a choice to lock a weapon instead of using it, to show truth instead of just taking victory. That is the part of the story that will shape what comes next. Because in the vast crowded galaxy, plenty of species have sharp claws and strong fleets. Very few have learned the hard way that the sharpest thing they carry is the moment they decide what kind of power they want to be.